Welcome to the Ecommerce Alley podcast, where we believe that great brands are built on passionate leadership, smart operations, and of course, powerful marketing. I am your host, Josh Coffee, like the drink, but more caffeinated. And I'm glad you're hanging out with me on this episode because the holidays, my friend, are coming up sooner than we expect. They sneak up on us. They surprise us as if they're on the same season, the same month, same days every year, which is so interesting. So we're going to be talking about how to run sales promotions today without hurting your brand equity. So if that is something that you've considered, then listen up. Because a lot of us have thought of running sales. Maybe we run them now, maybe we run them infrequently or frequently, or maybe you never run sales promotions inside your e-commerce business. But what I've learned is that running sales promotions is truly critical for any e-commerce business to win in the long run. It creates this cash injection. And what it does is it really helps nudge those almost buyers to becoming actual buyers. Those people that we all know them, right? They come to our website, they fill out a pop-up, maybe they fill out a lead form on Facebook ads. They get into our database in some capacity, and then they never take us up on that initial welcome offer. And they're just sitting in there. Maybe they get emails and they check them, or they don't. And so what I want to talk about is how to do these. And I'm going to break down how we do these, because there are a lot of different variables when it comes to running sales promotions. Because if you do them too often, depending on your brand, you can hurt your brand equity. If you do them too infrequently, then you'll miss out on enormous revenue months, especially in Q4. And maybe your Q4 looks different. I know I have a friend who owns a golfing brand, and their Q4 is not like their summer. Their summer is where that is their Q4 essentially. Their June, July, August, even tuck May in there, are the largest months of the entire year. So whatever your Q4 is, or whatever those big moments are, if you can figure out a good, tasteful way to run sales promotions to where you don't hurt your brand equity, but you don't just not do them, then you're going to create these large injections of cash. And so what I'm going to cover in this podcast episode is I want to walk through why you should be running them, how often you should run them without hurting your brand equity. I'm going to talk about the types of sales promotions you should run, the duration you should run them, and then I'll end with how we structure our marketing efforts around those promotions. And that part does change based on what the promotion is, the duration of the promotion, and so forth. So what I want you to do is, I want you to imagine, what if every month you could create, every 4 to 6 weeks, you could create an injection of cash that is equivalent to 10 to 20% of your standard average monthly revenue, excluding those promotions. What if you could add 10 to 20% every 4 to 6 weeks into your business? Wouldn't that be great? Well, that's exactly what sales promotions do. But the problem I often see, and here's is often a mental barrier around it. And I think that there's this thought that if I discount my products, I discount my brand. And depending on the frequency of which you do that and what your brand is, you might be right. But I will say, and I'll give an example real quick. So if you look at Chanel, or you look at Gucci, or you look at these Maserati, or you look at these luxury brands that we all know and love. If you look at those are what we would consider the exception, right? We might say, okay, it cheapens the brand of Gucci if they were running a 35% off sale on their $18,000 handbags once a month. Absolutely, because they are built as that luxury brand. It's that very, very high ticket luxury brand. And that could hurt it, because if they tried to do that every weekend, then they start to look like Kohl's, right? But flip the script, look at Kohl's. Kohl's is the exact opposite, right? If you think of Kohl's, and if you're not familiar with Kohl's, they have a sale and it's going on right now. So Kohl's runs sales every day, every weekend, 85% off this, 92% off this. And people go to Kohl's with that expectation of there is always a sale. If there's no sale, we don't go to Kohl's. And that's the expectation there. And so the challenge is, you have on one end of the spectrum, you have Kohl's, has a sale going on every day, all day, and it's happening now. And then you have a luxury brand, for example, that never runs any sales, zero, nada, nothing, right? So you have these two ends of the spectrum. And I think what I see very often in conversation with people is that they tend to think they're more along the lines more often along the lines of Maserati or McLaren or Lamborghini, I think of cars, so I'm thinking of cars here, but you get the idea, right? You have these luxury brands that don't discount, and so a lot of times we think, I have to be like them, and I don't want to discount my brand, and I don't want to hurt the brand equity that I have to where people think that I'm cheap, all right? So a lot of us try to think like that. And I think that that's the most common thing. I talk to people and they're like, well, I don't do discount. I was talking to someone last week. I was doing a coaching session and I was like, when's the last time you ran a promo? And he's in the apparel niche and he's like, well, honestly, it has been so long since I've run a promo that I can't even tell you the month that it was in. Like, that's how long it's been. And the crazy thing is, I mean, he's in standard apparel. I mean, you're $29 to $35 t-shirts. He has hats, things like that, both men and women. It's a brand built around a particular niche within apparel. And so he doesn't run any promos. And I pulled up four examples right there. I just listed off 4 examples of other brands that are doing 10, 20, 50 million plus a year. And I'm like, check out the emails I have in my inbox from Fabletics. Check out the emails I have from Highlead, from Noble, and I just pulled up all these brands. And he's like, wow, they run a lot of deals. I'm like, absolutely they do. And so there's a way to do it without discounting your brand, without hurting that equity, and do it in a tasteful way. So if you're thinking you're along the lines of a luxury brand, you can't run deals, it discounts the brand equity, like people are gonna think that you don't have good products, I'm gonna challenge that. I'm gonna say, as I go through this, consider starting to incorporate sales, especially as we get into Q4. All right, so when we run sales promotions for 2 primary reasons. The first reason is to acquire new customers. This is where, like, if I was drawing out buckets, we have those buckets of customers and we have the buckets of non-customers in our existing database, right? Let's say it's in your Klaviyo, your email list is the most easy way to do it. You have customers, you have non-customers. And the first goal is to say, how do we run a sale to get these non-customers to become customers? That's the first reason. The second reason is then to increase the lifetime value of our existing customers. You know, a lot of times, and I work heavily in advertising, we have a program where we teach Facebook advertising and we mentor people and coach them and have training material. And so I always like to equate things to advertising. And one thing with advertising is everybody believes they have to have this massive profitability built in on the front end of the very first acquisition of a new customer. And yes, if we can accomplish that, and we have clients all day, every day with more ad spend than you can think about doing that. Right? So they're acquiring customers profitably, and that's great. We want to do that. But as you scale, scaling is never linear. It's kind of like climbing a mountain. You don't just walk up to the top. You have to take these switchbacks, and you take a wrong turn. Then you got to backtrack a little bit, and then you have to climb up the side of a rock and scale it, and then you got to descale it and go another route. And it's kind of like climbing a mountain. Scaling is more like climbing a mountain. It's not like just an elevator that goes straight to the top. And so because of that, a lot of people think that they need to be massively profitable on the front end. But what they don't think about oftentimes is the reality is it's called customer lifetime value because it's over a lifetime of that customer. And so our goal, and one metric I talked about a few podcasts back on metrics that we track, is 60-day cash value. What is the value of that customer in the first 60 days? Because this gives us good data to say, hey, even if I broke even on day 1, I know that through my email marketing and through my sales promos I run every 4 to 6 weeks or however often that is, that they are going to buy more from me over the first 30, 60, 90 days. And so even if I'm gonna break even on day 1, I don't have to pay to acquire them again. And over the next X amount of days, they are going to become worth much, much more, which then fuels my advertising data. And if I know that, then I can be more aggressive on my advertising, especially because I know that if a major holiday or season is coming up, like Q4, it's going to really arm me with a larger list that then I can capitalize on in those moments. So 2 primary reasons. First, we want to move customers from the non-customer bucket to the customer bucket. And the second reason is because we want those customers that are already in the customer bucket to pull out their wallets and spend more money with us, increasing their LTV. And the best part is, for most promos, and I'm going to talk about this as far as like how you run advertising and how you run emails and things like that. For the most part, we run sales promotions to our warm and hot databases of emails, audiences, etc. And so because of that, we typically don't have to pay a lot to acquire them, or it's just the cost of email marketing. And so 2 reasons: new customers and increase the LTV of those customers. And here's what's interesting, all right? Here's what's interesting. So I did look this up to find out. Forbes did a study, and Forbes found that existing customers will spend 67% more on average than regular customers. And during the holidays, they spend 25% more on top of that as far as average order value goes. Meaning if we can every 4 to 6 weeks move as many people as possible, or every however frequent you decide, move as many people as possible through a sales promotion from our non-customers to our customers, those people will spend 67% more on their orders moving forward. And then during the holidays, they will spend an additional 25% on top of that versus first-time customers. So this is very, very important. It's very important because you can take, our goal is to move as many people from that non-bucket to the bucket of customers because they're going to spend a lot more. It's going to increase our LTV. It's going to increase our profit margin, our cash flow, which is then going to fuel more advertising. It's going to really help us grow. Now, actually, a good example of this. So last weekend, actually, I was in a local outdoor mall, went to this new mall that was built for the first time. Really, really cool. And I saw a Yankee candle shop. And I bought plenty of Yankee candles over the years, and I know Yankee candles are $27.99. And the reason I know that is because I've bought a ton of them, and I love Yankee Candle. They have like 110 to 120 hour burn time. Like, they're really good. And for our offices here, it's great. Basically, one candle will last like a week to 2 weeks, let's say. And so I love candles. I'm a huge candle fanatic, especially during the holiday season. I love those sweet smells. So I've bought plenty of Yankee candles, and we're walking by and we're leaving, and I tell my wife, Kelsey, I'm like, hey, go ahead and wait on this bench. I'm gonna run in, I'm just gonna grab a candle or two. So I ran in there, but then Yankee was having a sale. And now I'm already a customer. I've purchased a ton of Yankee candles, and I know they're $27.99. Well, they had a sale and it was 5 for $60. And I walked out of there with 10 candles versus 2 candles. And so even taking the offers that you're going to give to your non-customers, we will still offer that to our existing customers. So I wanted to clarify that because as we go into this, we'll usually, you can specify different offers for customers versus non-customers, that's fine. But my recommendation, if you're just getting into this, start real simple, send the same offers to both of them because your customers will still take advantage of that. Now, most brands fall into one of two categories. They're either currently running promos, whether frequently or maybe infrequently, or they're not running them at all. Like you never run them. So if you're listening to this and you're like the guy I was just talking about that can't even remember the last time you ran the promo, then I'm probably going to put you in that bucket of you really don't run promos. So either you run them frequently or infrequently, or you don't ever run them almost no matter what. Now, I will say we have worked with brands in both of those buckets. Some, they run them, but they're frequent. Some they run them, but they're infrequent, and some they just don't run them at all. But overall, what I see is the ones that have a cadence for doing it and that actually run the sales promos throughout the year, those brands have a greater growth from a revenue standpoint over the year. So if you look at the year over year, the ones that run sales consistently or have a cadence for it, depending on how frequent that is, it depends on your brand, the ones that have a cadence for it, you can see this upward trend in their revenue. The ones that don't, the trend is usually smaller. It's a slower growth model. And so I do recommend running this. And as far as the duration, like how do you run this without cannibalizing your brand to nothingness? How do you do it to where you don't become Kohl's and you're just like people only buy if there is ever a sale? Well, from a frequency standpoint, what we have seen work really well is every 4 to 6 weeks. So we've learned 4 to 6 weeks is a good time in between promotions that you can usually tie it to a holiday. Especially in the second half of the year, you can tie it to an occasion pretty easily. And 4 to 6 weeks is far enough apart that you're not going to really hurt your brand. Now, I say 4 to 6 weeks if you're a brand that doesn't run these like at all right? You can go more frequent than that. In fact, we have one client that they have they're in the food and beverage industry. So for them, that makes sense. It may not make sense for you, but every week they have a weekly circular of savings is what they call it. So they select collections or they'll select products each week. They'll select like 15 products a week out of their maybe 200 SKUs that will be on sale, and they'll discount those. and then they're on the homepage and you can cycle through them. You can see a timer of, hey, these are only on sale till this point. And honestly, I think that model could work for a lot of people. If you sell a lot of apparel or you have a higher volume of products, maybe take a collection once a week or take a certain group of products that you choose once per week and put different discounts on each one of those products, because then you have the urgency factor built into that and you could change those out. And whenever you change those out, it's another reason to email your list and say, hey, the weekly savings list is ending tonight at midnight or whatever that is. So they run them every week, and they run them, you can access it from like Sunday, or I think Monday through like Saturday, and then they reset on Sunday. So they change new ones. So you can do frequent or less frequent. If you don't run a whole lot, my recommendation is start with every 4 to 6 weeks, because you could usually tie that again to a holiday. It's pretty easy. Now, as far as the types of sales promotions you can run, what we have learned, here's what we've learned. The reason we can run it, you see, we're going to look at what's the occasion, what's the type, and then what's the duration we run it. Those are the 3 questions we need to answer. And from an occasion standpoint, what we've learned is the reason can literally be anything. It can be anything. And the good piece about this is, rather than just running a flash sale of, hey, the whole store is 20% off site-wide this weekend only, that's really generic, and that is salesy. And that does, if we're talking about eating at your brand equity, that does eat at your brand equity if you're running sales frequently like that. However, what we've seen is when you can tie it to a reason, tie it to an occasion, it tucks your promotion in the form of a certain message. And by doing it like that, or a certain occasion, and by doing it like that, what we've seen is there's a greater response to the sales, because it makes people feel that the reason to buy is because of the occasion. All right, so I'll give you a couple examples. If you release new products, which good thing I tell a lot of our coaching clients is like, hey, if you can release a new product a month, boom, that is a simple way to inject cash into business, gauge the interest in the market, drive sales, and run a promo, because you're releasing a new product and you're doing the early bird founders club, or whatever you want to call it. So every time you release a new product, that can create a reason to give early adopter discounts. You can have Christmas sales. You can do 12 days of Christmas, where every day leading up to a certain point, I'm not going to lead up to Christmas, but what we would do, like December 1st through 12th, for example, you could do 12 days of Christmas, where every single day you have a different deal. You have Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Mother's Day, post-Christmas clearance. You have summer, fall, winter, spring sales that you can run. I mean, the reality is, the reason really, if you have a company anniversary, there's special months like Down Syndrome Awareness Month, or a back in stock sale of all these different items. The reason really doesn't matter, but we learn when you tie the deal to a reason, people are more likely to buy, and then it also doesn't hurt your brand equity in the form of like people thinking that you're always discounting it. They're like, oh, they're only discounting it because it's Father's Day, or because insert whatever that is. I mean, heck, we're running a promo. I'm turning 30 this month, so we're running a promo on some things for 30% off for Josh's 30. I mean, I'm telling you, you can come up with anything. Your company anniversaries, you could do this. The reason and the occasion can be almost anything. So when we're running these every 4 to 6 weeks, we typically try to tie them to a holiday. Holidays are easy to tie to real easily. So when you get into Q4, you can basically tie it to something. You can have a fall sale, you can have a Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday sale, Small Business Saturday, and then you have Christmas time, right? So Q4 is pretty easy. The first 6 months of the year, maybe you could tie it to Valentine's Day. You have Memorial Day if you're in the States. You could come up with anything. You could release some new products in that area there. You could do a week of savings. You could do a lot of different things. But if you tie it to an event, we learn it doesn't hurt the brand equity as much. Now, as far as types of sales promotions, this is where you have to determine, am I going to run a collection-specific offer, a product-specific offer, or a site-wide offer? Now, site-wide is the easiest to do, but you don't want to do a lot of those. We don't like to do a lot of those because we'll save those for huge moments, right? When we get to Q4, huge moments. July 4th, maybe. Bigger holidays, we'll save the site-wide for that. But then we go either product-specific or collection-specific when we're doing other sales promos for the most part. And when it comes to like types of sales promos, a lot of people just think of percentage off in dollars off as like the easiest way to do it. And those are really simple, right? You could go percentage off, dollar off, store wide, but you can also go by collection or product. You can do buy one, get one, buy two, get one, buy one, get one 50. Something that we see do work really well. Just keep this in mind as you get into Q4 is we see between October and December, we see a free gift with purchase do really well. And for example, if I sold shoes, I could say, hey, buy any pair of shoes and you get our running socks for free with code I love socks, whatever. And that's an example. Now, when we do this, we want to make sure that if we give the free gift is pretty light, meaning it's not going to add a ton, if anything, to our shipping costs, and preferably something that isn't an enormous cost to you, right? Because you have to factor that into the profitability of the sale. So getting a free gift with product, doing tiered percentages off. If you spend $100, you get 10%. If you spend $200, you get 20%. If you get the idea, right? You could tier percentages off. You can offer free gift cards with purchase, free shipping with purchases. You could do 5 for $99 if you're selling t-shirts. You could structure these in a lot of different ways. And I'm just listing off examples here to maybe get some gears turning for you. But the gist is, my recommendation is that over time, you test different types of offers, not just a percentage or dollar off, right? 20% off your order this weekend for Father's Day. Like, okay, great, that's fine. But you can't keep doing that. You want to change the offers throughout the year, because here's why. When you get to Q4, we want to make sure that we know what offers your audience responds to. We've seen some brands that we work with do really well with free gifts with purchase, but other ones, it just sucks for them. We've seen some do great with offering tiered percentages off or tiered dollar amounts off based on their order sizes. And we've seen others not do well. So if you test different types of sales promotions throughout the year, some are gonna do great and some are gonna flop. And all of it is good learning, because then you're gonna realize, hey, when I get to these key moments of the year where I can just really cash in on the season or really cash in on those moments, if you have the knowledge of what types of offers work for your audience, then you're gonna have a much more successful holiday or a much more successful key moment that you're running that promotion for. So you select your occasion, determine the type of sales promotion you run. I encourage you, don't just only run percentage off store-wide or product. Like, percentage off is a really basic. It's simple. Sure, we can use it, but let's also try some other things. The final thing you have to answer is, what is the duration of the promotion? And this is going to depend largely on the occasion. Now, we like to do a mixture. And there are kind of 3 buckets that I will put our durations in. So we call them, by the way, we call these promo sprints, where we're sprinting a promotion. And so short promo sprints are what we consider 1 to 3 days. These are great for things like flash sales, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Giving Tuesday, new product introductions, really simple things. So short sprints are the best, in my opinion, because they have a greater sense of urgency. They're shorter. They're 24 to 72 hours. People have to take action on them, and they're not prolonged really long. So those are short promo sprints. Medium promo sprints are what I would consider 3 to 7 days. And these are good for things like seasonal product sales. All right. So seasonal product sales, like, hey, this week we're doing a promo on all of our fall scented candles. You get, and every week in October, we're gonna have a new candle that has a new scent that we're releasing, and it's on sale this whole week. That's just a random example. So medium would be 3 to 7, and then we consider long-term promotions between 7 and 30 days. And these are good for generalized sales like special months, Christmas time. Like I mentioned, 12 days of Christmas. Call it the 12 days of your brand too. You could say, hey, the 12 days of insert your brand name in there too, or 8 days of insert your brand name in there. Play on the 12 days of Christmas there. You don't have to do 12 days, but that's an example of running it over a longer period of time. Now, of all of these, I will say that shorter we see do better, and that is my preference. Again, it builds that urgency, and it really drives cash injection in a short period of time. And I really like it too, because it allows us to, if you're running like a month-long one and then you get to the next month, well, it feels like you've had this promo all month long, and you have the spike in the beginning, it dies in the middle, and then it spikes at the end when you're closing it out. So that's why we just see shorter ones typically do much better, unless you could tie it to a really good cause or reason. Kind of like 12 Days of Christmas is another really good one to do. But I will say, even in that one, we'll offer a different offer every day for 12 days, And so it actually still acts like a short promo sprint because it's 12 days long, but each day there's a different offer. So it's only 24 hours, which does create that urgency. Little side note there. Now, with that in mind, selecting our occasions, it could be summer sale, it could be back to school. Remember, any reason. Select your occasion, the type of offer you're gonna do, and I encourage you, don't just do the exact same thing over and over, 20% off, 15% off, whatever. Make it better than your welcome offer too, that's 10% off, I'm sure. So make it better than that. And then select the duration of that. Again, shorter is usually better. And once we have those in place, then we need to lean into, hey, what does the marketing look like in a sales promotion? Because these are sprints, they're shorter. They will behave and act differently, and we will do different things based on that. We're not looking to scale these things. We're not looking to like take these to the moon and evergreen them. Like this is like, hey, we're running this for 3 days. How do you run these for 3 days? So once you've determined that, we need to build out the campaigns for this. And what I will say is everyone is different. What works for you may not work for someone else. I know people, I don't personally push people to social media heavily because I know that organic, for 99% of people that I talk to, is a very slow moving ship. It's unpredictable and it generates way less revenue than ads and email. But that's what I just normally see. However, there are brands that I talk to that Instagram is driving $300,000 a month for them because that is just how they have built it, and they have influencers and it's a whole thing. So when I go through this marketing, this is based on what we recommend for a majority of people. However, you might be one of those exceptions. All right. Now, in anything, make sure that all your marketing efforts are cohesive. It's so big. Make sure that if your sale is site-wide and it's for 24 or 72 hours, have a countdown timer, clarify the sale in the banner, clarify the sale in the featured image, make sure your emails and your ads and SMS and whatever else you're doing are all telling the same story. Just cohesiveness is so critical if you want to run a really good sales promotion. And then the final thing I will say is with these 4 things I'm going to cover, be as aggressive as necessary for them based on the duration of the campaign and the time of the year. A good example, on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Christmas time, I'm gonna be substantially more aggressive with the volume that I'm doing of these 4 things I'm gonna recommend and how much money we're putting into them versus some kind of a promo in May or April. All right, so the time of year is going to change how aggressive you are with these. But what we do is when we plan out sales promotions, we have, if you think of a pyramid, and you have 4 different layers. The biggest one on the bottom, where we put most of our initial time and attention, is immediately into email and SMS campaigns. This is, I like to say this is like printing money on demand because I don't have to pay to acquire them. I don't have advertising spend. And so because of that, this is basically free money that's just sitting there, all for the cost of the time it takes you to send the email or to pay whoever is sending your emails. And we can usually drive $1 to $4 per month per person on our list with a good email strategy. You know, for example, one of our clients, they did nearly 60,000 last month from a 30,000 person email list. So they made about $2 per person on their list, and they did run their promos. And so we'll send during a promo with email and SMS. The reason we start there is it's our existing database. They're warm, they bought from us or they haven't. And remember, our goal is to get those non-buyers to become buyers and those buyers to spend more. And so email and SMS, it's very direct response. So you're going to get a direct response from those people immediately. They're going to buy, and we don't have advertising costs in there. That's why we start with this. Now, we will send 1 to 3 pieces of communication, whether it's SMS or email, per day, if it's a shorter campaign. So if it's 1 to 3 days, sometimes we might actually send more than that. So if it's a 1-day campaign, we might actually send 3 or 4 emails in a day. Again, the aggressiveness should depend on what the actual promo is. If it's 3 days, a lot of times we'll do a 2-2-2 cadence or a 2-2-3, where it's 2 emails on day 1, 2 emails on day 2, and then 3 emails or 2 emails on day 3. And so if it's longer though, we will space that out. Like for example, we have a live boot camp that we do every, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months. And we start promoting it 2 weeks prior. Now that's what I would consider a long promotion. So when we start promoting that, we're only sending 1 email a day. But as we get closer, we ramp up the volume that we're doing. All right, so the first thing is email and SMS. Plan that, build your strategy, determine how aggressive you're gonna be based on what the sale is and the duration of that sale. Now, the second thing we're going to do, and this one is really overlooked, is we're gonna update our website. The banner, featured image, countdown timers, scarcity timers, adding seasonal flair to the design of your site if it's a seasonal moment of the year. And so make sure that your website tells the same story that your email, your SMS, your ads, your social, whatever that is, are all telling. This one is like really often overlooked. So it's real simple, doesn't take very long. Make your pop-up tell the same story if you can. And so tell that same story. And this might be a little degrading, but I like to think of visitors as like, okay, pretend like people forgot everything that they just read before they clicked on the email, the ad, the social media link, whatever that is. Pretend like they're 5 years old and you have to walk them through your website. In that scenario, if they click, pretend like they're 5 years old, you have to handhold them through the process, but then also pretend like they forgot everything that they just read. So if I sent emails and they clicked on it, pretend like they forgot what they just read. Would they understand that there is a deal going on wherever you sent them without that previous information? So if you think like that, it's gonna help you really clarify things on your website. So that's the second thing we'll get in place. And sometimes if it's a one-day promo, we just may focus on those two marketing efforts. But if we want to take it up a notch, the next third thing we're going to get in place is going to be our paid ads. Now, for shorter or even medium, we will typically only run ads to warm and hot audiences. But if we're running a longer campaign, we'll likely lean into more cold traffic for that. And so a lot of variables within this, but overall with paid ads in a short run, like for example, if it's like a one-day holiday, or a 3-day holiday weekend, like especially one-day holiday, we're only gonna be running all of our ad spend to warm and hot audiences who've engaged with us, who know who we are, who are in our custom audiences, for example, in Facebook. We're going to run to only our warm and hot audiences. There's no need to try to go to cold audiences for a short campaign. So paid ads are that third thing. And the final thing beyond this that we would then spend time on is our social media. Now, there are other things. I totally get it. There are other things. You could do more podcast stuff. You could send direct mail. There are a lot of things you could do. These are the 4 that we recommend when you're doing sales promotions. And in social media, my advice is that you take the copy, the creatives, the messaging, and everything that you've already utilized inside your ads and your emails and just repurpose them, reformat them for the platform, and make sure that you do that versus starting from scratch, because that's just gonna add more time to your plate. So to kind of recap here, there are 2 ends of the spectrum. We have the end of always running a sale all the time, kind of like Kohl's. And then you have these more luxury brands that don't run a sale ever. And so you have to find out what type of brand are you and where do you fit in there? Find that balance. I will say, most people I talk to think that they're on the end of luxury and they should never, ever, ever, ever run a discount because the discount's their brand. I'm gonna challenge that and say, how about we run something every 4 to 6 weeks and let's see what happens there. So we do need to be running that. And in order to run that, we have to figure out what's the occasion. Again, it could be literally any reason, come up with something. You have to determine the type of the sales promotion, meaning are we gonna do buy 2, get 1? Is it a percentage off? Is it a tiered discount? Is it a free gift with purchase? What is the actual promotion going to be? Then the third thing is what is the duration of that? We have short, medium, and long. Short is what we see work the best. And then the final piece is then taking all of that offer and saying, how do we structure our marketing efforts around them to really have the greatest success, profitability, and cash injection that we possibly can? And we're gonna start with 4 things: email and SMS, then we move to our website, then we move to paid ads, and finally, we move to social media. All right. My friends, the holidays are coming upon us faster than you think and than we really all think. Let's be real here. So coming up soon, be on the lookout because we do have a holiday sales boot camp that is 10 weeks long and it will dive deep into helping prep you for this. But you've been listening to the Ecommerce Alley podcast produced by Dylan Counts. We want to say thank you for being one of our listeners. If you haven't joined the Facebook group, it's actually absolutely free. There's about 1,700 of us in there now. Go to alleypodcast.com/group, and I will see you in the next